App Planning for Success. Brought to you by Software Accelerator Playbook. On Instagram at S.A.Playbook. Hello, today on the podcast we are talking about the idea of the easiest app idea you'll ever have. Now, what do I mean by this? Now, this is for looking inside of a business, whether whether you own the business, whether you work for the business, whatever it is, looking inside the business and finding a process to digitalize, bring into the digital realm. The idea is that, if you have a human processing information that is, prone to error, it's slow, it's, kind of frustrating if you're copying things from here to there, and ultimately just kind of slows down the whole process of a business. Now, if you can speed up the process of a business, that means you are making more money, right? That means you are doing more in the same amount of time. And if you do more in the same amount of time, then you're going to make more money. That's pretty much how it works. So the idea of, taking something that might take you an hour and turning it into software, turning it into an app that you use internally, that will almost always result in a positive ROI and be a good investment. The idea is that you take one part of the system, you take one piece of, what it is that you do. If you kind of imagine your whole job or the whole thing that you're imagining that could potentially be, turned into software or automated. Imagine that kind of as a conveyor belt, right? Where it's going, at section A, then it gets this thing, and then the output from section A goes into the input for section B, and then it gets this thing added, and then it gets that, and then it gets that, and then eventually at the very end, then it's all done, right? So kind of this long conveyor belt, maybe with 10 different sections. You're starting with raw materials, and at the end you end up with, a box or something. And I'm not necessarily just talking about, a physical manufacturing plant where that actually happens. I'm talking about in terms of, you take data, you put it into a spreadsheet, you modify it, you do calculations on it, you take that data and then you bring it somewhere else, you make a decision based on that data, whatever it is that you're doing with data. If you're bringing something into a spreadsheet and working with it, the chances that it can be automated is really quite high. And if you can skip that part of your job by just having software that does it for you, then you are now moving at a faster efficiency. Now, if you are salaried and you don't actually get paid more to work faster, then this probably won't work for you. But also keep in mind that that's not necessarily, a fantastic place to be. If you basically, if you improve and you go twice as fast, if you're not getting paid more at all, then that is, really, really quite difficult. There's no way then to be able to use your ingenuity to make more money, because you are, stuck. Even if you make yourself twice as fast, you're just, stuck with the same salary level. Or I guess you can then go for bonuses and things. But if you own your own business and, it takes you an hour to do some certain job, and now it takes you, after the software, then now it takes you 10 minutes. Well, now you're just making more per hour, because you're able to get through more jobs in that same span of time, right? So the people who this is most beneficial for are people where, time is money, and they can basically shorten the time to do a job, and then all of a sudden that's where they find the money. Okay? So this is not an app idea in terms of, public facing, get a bunch of people to download it from the App Store. This is an app in terms of internal business processes, just making anything that isn't fully automated just more automated. And it doesn't even need to be, the whole entire conveyor belt, right? You may even automate, one piece of the conveyor belt where, you're manually taking it from A to B and from B to C, but then from C to D, that part is then automated. So, where you were taking 20 minutes to do this section, well, now you just drop it in the software and then you zoom through, kind of like a turbo boost in Mario Kart, where, you're going around the track, and then for that little, for that spurt of time, you go on the turbo boost and then you go faster than everybody else. That's the idea. And if you can then put turbo boost next to turbo boost, next to turbo boost, next to turbo boost, then you are basically just flying down the track, as opposed to, having everything manual and slow. So to kind of give you like a real world implementation of this, in order to make this podcast show up on Instagram, there's a handful of different things that need to take place, right? So I'm recording it right now, obviously, and then I upload that. As soon as I upload that, then it gets the first part of the audio that like welcomes everybody to the podcast and says what the podcast name is. That gets added to the front of the audio. So I'm putting two pieces of audio together. The one I'm recording right now, and then one that I pre-recorded that is the intro, right? So it's just putting those things together. Then as soon as it puts it together, it puts it on a page for me where I get to fill in the title and the description of it. Okay, so once it processes through, I go to this page and all I see are, podcasts that are unfinished, that are, through section A already, and waiting for me to add the title and description. And it also looks back at how many different podcasts I've created already, and it increases the podcast number for me, right? So, if the one yesterday was 21, well then today when I go to fill out for this podcast, it'll say, whatever, it'll say 22. I'm not sure the exact number of it, but it'll say the number for me, so that way I don't even have to look back and figure out, which number am I on right now. It'll auto number for me. And then as soon as I submit that, now it does multiple different things. It actually branches off. One thing it does is it creates an entry on my website, which then is the kind of the holding tank for the podcasts that then goes out to Spotify and Apple, at the Apple Podcast area. So, I automatically, just by typing in a title and description, I am creating that post on my site, forwarding myself to the publish button. And so all I have to do is fill that in and click publish, and now I've got a new entry on my website for the podcast. And then what happens then is it kicks off the video creation. Okay, so this is a really fun part, right? So now it takes that title and description and it sends it to my server, which then gets the information of the title and description, drops that into a video template, and then renders out the template. Actually goes and renders each frame of the template and then puts it together in a video which loops the whole length of the podcast, right? So notice that the video, if you're watching on Instagram, you'll notice the video kind of loops over and over and over again. It's maybe 20 seconds long. I'm not sure exactly how long it is, but it just basically figures out, okay, if the podcast is 5 minutes long, it needs to loop this long in order to go the entire length of the podcast. And so it makes the video, and then it grabs the audio from before, and then it puts them together, and then mixes down a final video, and then it sends that to a page for me to download so that I can upload it to Instagram. Okay? So that whole process, now I'm explaining it, there really are kind of a lot of pieces to that thing. It's kind of like a conveyor belt, right? I mean, it's starting from one place. Sometimes it needs a little bit of help along the way, but ultimately it's an automated process, or at least, semi-automated process, I guess I'd say, but mostly automated process. And when I first started building it, I didn't have all of the pieces, right? You can imagine it's, 6, 7, 8 pieces, whatever. When I first started, I only started just manually doing it, right? Manually doing each part of that. And then I built one piece to be automated, right? So I built the first piece to just put the audio together, right? So then I never, ever, ever need to ever do that ever again. I just add the audio, and then it puts the front audio on the front of it. And I never need to do that work again because I've automated that process. So for me now to complete a podcast and to get it as a video up on my Instagram is quite an easy process. And I actually don't even need to hire anybody to edit it for me. It's just done because I created the software for it. Okay? So the whole idea here is, I say this all to basically give you a picture of, if you are in your business and you're doing something that's manual, you're doing something that's in a spreadsheet, that's using data, that's using CSV files, that's processing data, whatever it is, that you can automate some or all of that, and that might be the easiest app idea you ever come up with, where you've already got a business process, you're already doing something where there is money flowing already, and you flip that into an automated or semi-automated process. That means as soon as you get the software back, you're putting money back in your pocket. Okay? I did a software for one of my friends who's running a business in New York City, and he he was doing something with labels, with like formatting labels, that took him a lot of time. It was kind of tedious. He was in Google Sheets. He was kind of frustrated with Google Sheets, fighting with Google Sheets, and having to do this convoluted process. And ultimately he wanted a way to have it be automated. And so as soon as we built this thing for him to have that process automated, this huge weight was lifted off of him, where then now he can, not only is he just speeding through it himself, because it's automated, he can now give it to somebody else to do, where he knows it's going to be done right. He knows that the software is going to keep all the boundaries and make sure everything goes proper. So then for somebody else, it's really, really easy. They just have to input a few things, and the software does the heavy lifting. So in that case, he's just stealing back time in his business. He paid for it to be done, right? And that's that initial outlay of cash to build the thing. But the second he got the software back, he's now putting money back in his pocket. Well, really what he's putting back in his pocket is time, but in his case, time is absolutely money, because he's running his business and he can spend his attention elsewhere. So for him, it really made a ton of sense to automate that piece of his business, and now he's not ever slowed down by that. For that part of his business, he's got a permanent turbo boost. So what happens in your business if you have one turbo boost, and then a few months later you build another one, and then you build another one, and you build another one, and then you turn around a year later and you've built 6 turbo boosts in your business? You're just moving faster, for sure. Guaranteed. Not, hey, I'm going to start this new app project and, potentially hope to find people and try to build a community and try to market and do ads and all this other stuff. You're just helping yourself. You're helping yourself go faster for your own internal business process. And this is something that a lot of people miss because they're not software developers, so they don't think about it. They don't think about how they could have a turbo boost in their business. But if this is you, if you're listening to this and you're working in spreadsheets, you're working in CSVs, you're processing data somehow, even pictures, video, things like that, there are ways to speed this up. So if you're curious about it, if you're wondering, please hit me up on Instagram, DM me at S.A.Playbook, and get the conversation started. And I'd love to help kind of expand your knowledge on what's possible, for your business and how I might be able to help. Thanks for listening. Talk to you tomorrow.